Welcome, sports fans, and welcome to the Weekend Eve. I am Brian Kress, the Awesome Voice. This is Any Given Sunday on KUAW. My brother with another mother, Coach 24, Darwin Penny, is my sidekick, and he is the he's awesome one. But he is out of town doing his thing. He's actually up in Michigan with the playoffs of minor league baseball, and so couldn't make it to the show tonight. But that's okay. He is in spirit here and running the show behind the scenes, Mr. DJ Scatter, George Walker. How are you doing this evening, Mr. Walker?
Hey, I'm doing super fantastic this evening.
All right, that sounds awesome to me. So anyway, we were starting a little late, and the reason why we were starting a little late is because we could not get Facebook to show up, and we've been waiting for it. We had YouTube. That's already available. So if you guys are watching us on YouTube, that is awesome. And give us a shout out, just to even say, hey, we're watching and everything else. So, but if you want to call in, 816-599-6893 is the phone number. We've got a lot to talk about, especially last week with that Chiefs game. But first, more importantly, last Saturday, we had the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum's Hall of Game ceremonies. Now, that was amazing. It was so amazing. And great players, Doc Gooden, Dave Smoke Stewart, Al Dowling, Vida Blue, Mike Norris. And they were also honoring Jim Mudcat Grant and the Black Aces. And so I took my father with me, and it was, I'm telling you what, it was a night that I will never forget. And just watching my dad just soak in, all the people that were there. And, the one thing he kept saying was everybody was just so kind and so polite, and they welcomed you. They would come up and talk to you. And he just totally just enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it too, but I enjoyed watching my dad enjoy this. So, Vida Blue unfortunately passed away in May. So, his son Derek, was there. And Dontrell Willis. I am so sorry, Dontrell. I hope you're not listening right this second, and heard me miss you. You were phenomenal too, and your mom was awesome. She was the life of the party, and she was just, everybody resonated to her. So, but it was just so awesome getting pictures with my dad, with the baseball players, and then Bob Kendrick. Bob Kendrick runs a class organization. I know that he doesn't do it by himself. It takes a team, and he has a phenomenal team. But it does start with the leader. And Bob Kendrick, I just got to tell you, you are a phenomenal man, and you just if you ever wanted a job that you just loved coming to and showing up every day and just wanting to make things better, Bob Kendrick is the man to do that. He's just totally enjoys what he does, and he makes time for everybody. And he is going to come on our show sometime soon. I don't know when, but I had asked him if he would come on the show, and he said he would. Now, my biggest surprise was Coach 24, Darwin Penny. He told me that, after last Thursday, that he was, he was in town for a little bit, and he was headed back out and wasn't going to be at the Hall of Game ceremonies. So I was like, okay. I was like, man, I would love my dad to meet you and everything. And so we came in, and he showed up with his beautiful wife, Maria, and I was just ecstatic. I gave him a big hug. We got the four of us, my father, Maria, Coach 24, and myself. We got pictures together, and it was awesome. So definitely probably should post some of those pictures on this site so people can see it. But it was just an amazing night. So, and then he had to end up heading back out and doing his job. So that's what he was doing. So, but saying that, this weekend on Saturday night, the Negro Leagues baseball ceremonies are going to be at Royal Stadium. Bob Kendrick has a new dish that is going to be provided. It's they call it the I'll check it out. And I was like, they named it after Bob Kendrick, and it has brisket. It has cheese, which everybody who knows me very well knows I do not like cheese, but it has cheese. It has the corn. It has the Rotel stuff, and it's in tortillas. So and so Saturday I am going to the game. I'm taking my dad, and I'm taking my youngest daughter and her family, her husband and daughter, my granddaughter Booklet, and we are going to the game because Josh's birthday was yesterday. My daughter's birthday is on the 24th, and my granddaughter's birthday is next month. So as a birthday gift, I'm taking them to the Royals game. And so everybody needs to go out there, and we got to get out there early because we want our jerseys, and they have Monarch jerseys available because of the Monarchs, the way they're playing and everything. They're in the playoffs. I believe they are in the championship game, so don't quote me on that. I'm always into football, but I've got to definitely check that out. But anyway, it is going to be one whale of a weekend. So if you guys are going to come out there, you guys need to go. And they're playing the Houston Astros. And I know people still don't like the Houston Astros after what they did, what they did several World Series ago and everything else. And right now they are one game ahead. Now, I know that there's a lot of leftover or games that were not recorded, so I am not sure. But as of right now, Houston has a 1-game lead over the Texas Rangers and 1.5-game lead over the Seattle Mariners, and that is the tightest and most interesting division in baseball right now, the American League West, because you've got Baltimore and Tampa Bay. They're 2.5 games apart. But you've got Atlanta, who just clinched their 6th consecutive Eastern Division in the National League. You've got Milwaukee that's kind of pulling away from the Chicago Cubs, 4 games ahead. The Dodgers have not officially claimed the West, but they are 13 games ahead, and it would take a traumatic downslide for them to lose that lead. So they are going to be in there. And then you've got Minnesota. It's slightly pulling away from the Cleveland Guardians, and the Detroit Tigers. So you've got baseball going. They're getting ready for their playoff run and everything else. But we got to go to last Thursday. So last Thursday, Coach 24 and we did our show, and I forgot, we did all of our predictions, and then I forgot that Kansas City and Detroit won, and the whole time for Wednesday and Thursday, all day Thursday while I was at work, I kept debating, should the Chiefs are the Chiefs going to win. You know, I kept trying to go, yeah, they're going to win, but I just was never completely comfortable with them winning the game, and I just like something is going to go on. Well, then Travis Kelce got injured early in the week. He ended up not playing, and he ended up being a key component to partially why the Chiefs did not win. Now, saying that, Patrick Mahomes played well enough. He didn't play superior. He didn't play, he didn't have his Patrick Mahomes 300 plus and 3 or 4 touchdown performance, but he passed for 200 plus yards. He had 2 touchdowns, and he gave up his first interception out of 6 games, out of 6 starting season opening games. He threw his first pick. The problem was it wasn't even his fault. He put it in the hands of Kadarius Toney, and it bounced out, went into the rookie Brown's arms, and he took it back for a pick 6, in which you could probably say was the difference, because the Chiefs defense only gave up 2 touchdowns. Now, we were worried that it was going to be a high-scoring game, that, it was going to be, can the Lions keep up with the Chiefs scoring? Well, it was more of a defensive battle, and Detroit's defense played really good. But saying that, Jared Goff did not, light fire on the offense. They only scored 2 touchdowns. The Chiefs, they scored 2 touchdowns, but they also had 2 field goals, and the difference was 1 point. But the whole time I was just like, something is not right. And yes, Chris Jones was sitting in the suite, and I was listening to a guy today. He told me that he was about 30 feet from where he was at, and I guess people were really giving Chris Jones a hard time, harassing him, yelling at him, and all this. And the ushers had to come over, I guess, at times and tell them that they can't do it. Because I guess in the suites, you have the area where you can eat and everything else, and then you can come out and sit down. Well, that when he was doing that, next to his 2 mobster agents, because everybody said they look like mobsters more than agents. So, but for him to sit in there, yeah, I like Chris Jones. And I'm glad that he signed. I'm glad he's back on the team. And I am actually glad that he got a contract. He did get a raise, but it's more of a performance type raise. They, said, okay, here we go. You got a raise, but you're going to have to prove it again this year. Yes, he has been proving it for the last several years. Yes, he is one of the best. You could argue that he's just as good as Aaron Donald. Maybe some people say he's better. Maybe some people say Aaron Donald is better. But he was a good component. And the thing about that is that in the 4th quarter, when the Chiefs gave up that 3rd touchdown, or the 3rd touchdown that Detroit scored, they could have really used Chris Jones. So, him, wanting more money and everything, could have cost them the game. I'm not going to say that was the reason. The defense did play very well. They definitely played better than I expected. I was expecting a high-scoring game, and it didn't become that. It was more of a low-scoring battle. And Detroit, they proved that they are worthy of challenging to win the North Division in the NFC and have the chance to play in the playoffs. And for the first time, I believe, since 1991, I believe, was the last time that they were in the playoffs. I know it was the last time that they made it to the NFC conference title. That's when they played the Washington Redskins, and they played in Washington. And they have never. I don't believe the Detroit Lions has ever won a playoff game on the road, and I think that even goes back to the 50s and 60s. But they played well. So now you got so the Chiefs are 0-1. It's not that bad. I mean, I know that I was hearing water splashing all over the place because people were jumping off bridges, trying to, think that it's all over. But, it was one game. And the sun came out the next day and everything was fine. But saying that, the 4 top teams in the AFC, they all lost. Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo, and the Los Angeles Chargers. All 4 of them lost. And so, the Chiefs have a good chance of winning this Sunday. They are going to Jacksonville, and Jacksonville struggled a little bit with the Indianapolis Colts, but I believe it was also because they also gave up a fumble that was picked up for a touchdown. So Indianapolis scored a defensive touchdown. But still, Jacksonville did what they needed. Trevor Lawrence did what he needed, and they got the victory. So now they're going to play at home against the Chiefs. So the Chiefs, they can't afford to go 0-2, but it's not going to be the complete end of it. But saying that, if the Cincinnati Bengals, who will play their home game this week against the Baltimore Ravens, if they lose this week, not only do they go 0-2 as a record, but they are 0-2 in their division. And that and the division is one of the toughest. Now, Pittsburgh got smoked last week, and yes, I picked Pittsburgh, but Coach 24 picked San Francisco. And I really thought that Pittsburgh would have shown up and played better, but they did not. And San Francisco proved right now that they are the team in the NFC to challenge the Philadelphia Eagles and to go to the Super Bowl. So, and I know that they're going to play Dallas in a couple of weeks. Let me see. Yeah, it's going to be in a couple of weeks. I'll have to look. I've got my NFL schedule here, but I know that Dallas. Yep. It will be week 5. It will be Sunday night football. So they're not going to change that. And it is in San Francisco. And I'm telling you what, that defense that Dallas had was just amazing. And they just totally annihilated the New York Giants. Now, saying this, Mr. Walker, did you watch the game Sunday night?
No.
Oh, no. Was it Sunday night? Yeah, it was Sunday night. You did not watch it?
No.
Oh,
no,
my
I was
goodness.
Busy.
Oh, well, you should not be that busy that you could not watch football.
Watch the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in case I can ask you a question.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so see,
I'm
now you're
sorry.
like, I don't know. So, but anyway, Dallas won 40-0. It was the biggest blowout in their history of the rivalry between the Giants and the Cowboys. But the thing of it is, was Dallas that good, or was the Giants that bad? Because Daniel Jones was horrible. I mean, he could not. I'm telling you what, Aaron Rodgers, got his foot injured. I'm surprised that Daniel Jones walked off the field because he just kept getting hassled all night long. They had a offensive touchdown. They had a defensive touchdown, and they had a special teams touchdown. And I have the Dallas defense in my big fantasy league football, and I did not play them. I played Baltimore, so I had Baltimore and I had Dallas. So I have 2 pretty good defensive teams, and I was thinking that Baltimore was was playing at home against the Houston Texans, I figured, and Stroud hadn't shown me anything. So I was thinking, okay, Baltimore will get me some points, and they did. They got me 12 points, which is not bad. But Dallas would have given me 35 points, and I could have won my fantasy football game. I had probably the lowest score out of everybody, but I had Joe Burrow, who only gave me 1.18 points. I could have put in Sam Darnold, and it would have given me about the same. He had -2, and he didn't. He barely showed up. But my backup quarterback. Yeah, it was early. So, but anyways, Dallas's defense was really good, and I'll tell you what, Stephon Gilmore, and Diggs. I'll tell you what, that could be a formidable defensive backfield that finally will push Dallas at least to the AFC or the NFC Championship game for the first time since I was in my 20s, which I was, I believe, 29 years old, 28, 29 years old. So, But yeah, Dallas and San Francisco are going to be good, and they're going to be headed off to for a showdown in Week 5. So in 4 weeks, they will be playing. So, but this week, the Dallas Cowboys will play at home, and they will play the New York Jets, which obviously Aaron Rodgers got injured. He is out for the year, tore his Achilles on the 4th play of the drive. But here was the thing. Everybody was talking about the Jets' offensive line, trying to protect him, and they didn't protect him, and they just came in and Leonard Floyd just came in untouched virtually, and when they tackled him. Now the thing of it is that they're yelling and screaming about the surface of the playing field. I get that. But if it was Sam Howell, if it was Zach Wilson, if it was a no-name quarterback that got injured, a Cooper Rush, even Blaine Gabbert, if they would have gotten injured and been out for the year, they would have said, okay, yeah, you may need to protect, maybe do, way they've been talking about, yeah, we need to get better surfaces. But this was Aaron Rodgers. Oh, my gosh, Aaron Rodgers, because he's not going to be there no more. And I know that he's a big name. I know that everybody watches him. Look, 25 million people Monday night watched that football game even after him lasting 4 plays. So the Bills and the Jets, they were still watching. And if Josh Allen did not turn the ball over, become a turnover bakery factory with 3 interceptions and a fumble, they would have won. And it still ended up going into overtime. And the Jets ended up winning on a punt return, 65 yards by Xavier Gibson to end the game. And so, and the guy, well, actually, Josh Allen, I think, threw more passes to Jordan Whitehead, which was the defensive back for the New York Jets, more than he threw it to his own teammates, because he had 3 interceptions, and he's never had 3 interceptions in a game. In fact, I don't know if he's even had 3 interceptions in a season, but he does now because he became the AFC Player of the Week, along with Xavier Gibson, and then on the offense was Tua Tagovailoa, who threw for 466 yards and the winning touchdown to Tyreek Hill in the 36-34 victory over the Chargers. So, and for the NFC, the offense was Brandon Ayuk of San Francisco. Defense was Jesse Bates III for Atlanta, and Special teams was Jake Elliott, the kicker for the Philadelphia Eagles. So we are going to take a break right now, and then when we get back, we will go over Coach 24 and I's predictions from last week and predicting this week's games and where we see those at. So you are listening to Any Given Sunday on KUAW.
And ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to KUAW Radio, Kansas City's global community radio station. You can pick us up on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You can also listen to us on your Get Me Radio. If you have a smart speaker, just tell it to play KUAW Radio. And now we're back to The Awesome Voice and Any Given Sunday.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you very much, Mr. Walker, DJ Scatter. I am Brian Kress, and with Coach 24 Darwin Penny, who is not here tonight. He is out doing his due diligence with his job. We are back with the NFL. I just want to bring up a little bit more on Aaron Rodgers and his leg. You know, they try to say that they blame the field for the injury because the fact that you can run faster and everything else. I was discussing this with DJ Scatter in the break, and you know, they were talking about we were talking about the Astrodome and the AstroTurf because the fact that you couldn't grow grass in the Astrodome when it was first built in 1965. So they were trying, so they tried something different, concrete and a little thin piece of what is that, seasonal rug that you would put on a back patio to make it look cool. And so where the thing was is they said, well, you can run faster, you can make better cuts and everything else, but at the same time, cutting on concrete like that can also destroy your knees. So, but the thing of it is that the natural grass, it should always be natural grass. But saying that, like I said earlier, if it was a no-name quarterback, if it was Sam Howell, if it was even Blaine Gabbert, you wouldn't hear the fussing about as much as you do because you hear Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He is a great quarterback, and he was supposed to lead the New York Jets to a possible Super Bowl championship. He even talked about that the one lone trophy that the Jets have is lonely and needs another buddy, which means he was going to plan on winning the Super Bowl and providing, a spot next to the Super Bowl III one with Joe Namath. But it's not going to happen this year, at least not with Aaron Rodgers. So I get that we need to have natural grass. But here's the thing. You have soccer. Soccer is the most popular sport worldwide. Now, it's not as popular in the United States as it is in every other country. I mean, Mexico, South America, Central America, Europe, Africa, Asia, all of those countries, they thrive on soccer, or as they call it, foosball. But saying that every single stadium that they play in, they play on natural grass. They do not play on AstroTurf or athletic turf or any other turf, where you have ground up tires, used to soften your fall and everything else. They play on natural grass. Yes, it's going to rain. It's going to get messy and everything else. But, but the game with Buffalo and the Jets, it was raining too. So, maybe the rain caused it. Maybe we should not allow them to play in the rain. Maybe we shouldn't allow them to play in the snow. Maybe we shouldn't allow them to play in 70-degree perfect sunny weather or play in 100 degrees, because, somebody is going to complain about something. And I get frustrated. Just play the game. In the 70s and 80s, I mean, I would watch football and it was great. I loved it. I loved the hitting. Yeah, they hit hard, but and they're trying to take all the bad hits away, but at the same time, they're virtually taking all the hits away. I mean, you can barely two-hand tag the quarterback without throwing a flag on you for roughing the passer. So it's just a new world, and I'm old school, and I will always be old school, and I love the 70s and 80s and 90s, and it just can't it was the best. So but anyway, enough with that. We've talked about it. Chiefs will play Jacksonville on natural grass, so we won't have to worry about that. But the thing of it is that the Chiefs have their 2 players back. They have Travis Kelce. He is back. Went from out to questionable, and I can't see how he would not play in Sunday's game unless he re-injures his knee and it becomes an issue. And then you've got Chris Jones, and he is signed and he is in practice and he will be ready. Now I don't know how much he will play. Nick Bosa played quite a bit in the San Francisco's win over Pittsburgh, so you don't know. I mean, supposedly Chris Jones was staying in shape, and he was in athletic shape, but he was not in football shape. So we'll have to determine that. Andy Reid will have to do that. So anyway, last week, Coach 24 and I did our predictions. I went 10-6, and he went 12-4. He did really well. The 2 main games that we disagreed on that was totally wrong was he picked Miami, I picked the Chargers, and he picked San Francisco, whereas I picked Pittsburgh. So I was totally wrong with that. But the other guys, the NFL Network guys, and I'm a little frustrated with them too, because I would love for them to show all of their predictions, and they did not show all the predictions. And it was probably the first week of the season, so I'm going to give them that break. But I have all but 3 of their predictions: the Thursday night game, the Carolina Atlanta, and Arizona at Washington. And I imagine that they probably picked Washington, all of them, to win. Atlanta and Carolina, you don't know. And maybe Kansas City, everybody picked Kansas City, but I would say that maybe there was somebody that picked Detroit. I know Ryan Clark picked Detroit. He picked 27-26, and so he was correct in the prediction. So, but saying that, Coach 24 and I picked Cleveland to beat the Cincinnati Bengals, whereas Rich Eisen, Steve Mariucci, Kurt Warner, and Gerald McCoy picked the Cincinnati Bengals, and only Michael Irvin was the only one that picked the Cleveland Browns. So he listened to us, and we got it right. And they all picked the Chicago Bears, where we picked the Green Bay Packers to win. So anyway, so we've got this week's predictions. And so Coach 24 gave me his picks earlier today. And then I made my picks. I didn't really look at his picks. I wanted to make sure I got mine first, so we wasn't copying and all that stuff. But it doesn't matter because we don't do that. So anyway, and I will do Thursday night's game in a moment. But the rest of the games, we have Green Bay at Atlanta. Atlanta ran the ball very well because Ritter did not throw the ball worth diddly. And Jordan Love could be the next version of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Now, this was only one game, and it was against the Bears, and he played well. But now, I don't know if Aaron Jones is going to be playing for the Packers this Sunday because of a hamstring injury, and he hasn't been practicing the last couple of days. So I do not know if he is going to be available, and that's horrible for me in my fantasy league because I have him too. So I will have to find another running back if he can't play. But saying that, both Coach 24 and myself, we picked the Green Bay Packers to beat the Atlanta Falcons. And then you have the Vegas Raiders going to Buffalo and playing the Bills. Now, the Bills had a bad game. Excuse me. But they are going to go, they're going to have their home opener and play against the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Vegas Raiders do not play, the Raiders themselves do not play well on the East Coast. So I think this will be a game where Buffalo will come back and beat the Vegas Raiders. Now, saying this, if Buffalo Bills go 0-2, they are in real trouble because you've already got the Miami Dolphins that are 1-0, and you've got New England, who played the Philadelphia Eagles last week very tough, and Philadelphia had to hold them off for the victory. So, but saying that, we both got Buffalo Bills. Now we have Baltimore at home or on the road against Cincinnati Bengals. This is the game that if Cincinnati loses, they will go 0-2, and that is not a good start because then Baltimore will be 2-0. And yes, it's early in the season, but you don't want to get in that type of deficit. And if you go 0-2, the chances of making the playoffs are less than 20%. So even though Cincinnati is a very good team, and they are still going to be one of the favorites to go to challenge the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl, then you can you don't totally worry about it. But going 0-2 is not a good thing. I have the Baltimore Ravens beating Cincinnati. I think last year they should have beaten Cincinnati in the playoffs. If they didn't have their backup quarterback, and I believe it was the third-string quarterback, and it wasn't for the one fumble that was returned back for a touchdown, it would have been Baltimore playing in the playoffs or continuing on into playoffs instead of the Cincinnati Bengals. Saying that, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Coach 24, he picks the Cincinnati Bengals. Now we got Seattle and Detroit. Seattle at halftime last week against the Rams was up 13-7. So it seemed like everything was going good. And then all of a sudden, the Rams score 23 unanswered points, run the ball right down. Well, they didn't really run the ball right down their throat, but they passed all over. They ran all over. I mean, they had a 2-1 advantage in the time. They had almost 40 minutes of time, whereas Seattle only had 20 minutes. You can't beat anybody only being on the field 20 minutes and not scoring. They were shut out in the second half, and the Rams were to me was the biggest upset in the week, because I really thought, and Coach 24 thought, that Seattle was going to win. And along with the NFL Network guys, the game day morning guys, they all pick Seattle. So, you don't know. And usually in the first week, you're pumped up and you play a lot better than you expect. Or sometimes you can play even worse than expect. But still, you get pumped up, and everybody has a shot at winning in that first week. So now they'll start coming out. They are going to Detroit, who now has a signature victory. They beat the Chiefs. From what I've heard, that stadium is going to be pumped up. It is going to be jam-packed. And I'll bet you the top dollar to just get there to watch the game is just going to be ridiculous. But saying that, I think the Detroit Lions will beat the Seattle Seahawks. So Seattle, who I thought had a chance of upsetting San Francisco in the division and taking the division, is a loss away from being nearly two games back from the 49ers. So, but we both have the Detroit Lions. Excuse me. Now you have the Indianapolis Colts versus the Houston Texans. Two of the uh, two of the non-playoff teams that are playing. They are obviously the two worst teams in the South Division of the AFC. But Indy played Jacksonville tough, and Houston didn't quite do as well against Baltimore. Baltimore beat them pretty easily, but Houston is at home, and I'm going to take the home team with the Houston Texans, and Coach 24 also agrees with me, and taking the Houston Texans. Now, Kansas City at Jacksonville. I think, all week, Patrick Mahomes has said the performance Thursday night was embarrassing. He has said that all week. And so now you've got the naysayers, you've got the doubters, and you've got an angry Patrick Mahomes. And when you have an angry Patrick Mahomes, he is going to go out and he's going to light fire. And I don't care who is receiving the balls. You know that he's going to get it to him, and you know that they better catch him, and you know that he's got his reliable tight end, Travis Kelce. Even if he doesn't play all the snaps, he plays partial, or he could play all of it. It depends. I know that once he's on the field, he's not going to get off the field. And this is Jacksonville's chance to do what the Detroit Lions did last week, get a signature victory. And if Jacksonville can do that, they can go 2-0 and really take a huge lead in the AFC South Division. But saying that, I think the Chiefs are going to win. Whereas last week I did pick the Chiefs, but I was not sure about that, and I was hesitant to pick the Chiefs. But this week, for sure, I am picking the Chiefs with no doubt. And I think it's going to be a great game, but I still think the Chiefs are going to come back and they're going to win. And Coach 24 agrees with me. Now you have the Chicago Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, two former Central Division teams from the NFC, because that's where Tampa Bay played for a long time with the Chicago Bears. So Chicago last week just fell apart, and they did not have a good game at all. Baker Mayfield did not turn the ball over. That was key. They were virtually only had like 240 yards of total offense. I mean, Minnesota had over 400 yards, and yet they turned the ball, or Tampa Bay had 3 turnovers against the Vikings. They picked up 2 fumbles and an interception. And the interception was virtually at the goal line as the Minnesota Vikings were getting ready to score, which was key in that victory. And I think that as long as Baker Mayfield doesn't turn the ball over and just plays ball control football, I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will beat the Chicago Bears. These are, the Bears are fighting for last place. Tampa Bay has a shot at winning their division, their NFC South division. So with that, I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Coach 24 agrees with me. Now, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers going to Tennessee. And last week, I picked Tennessee to lose to the New Orleans Saints, whereas Coach 24 picked Tennessee, saying that Mike Vrabel is going to make sure that they're going to play tough against the Chargers. The Chargers, they were high-powered, but they kept getting lit up, saying that their defense should play a lot better, even though Joey Bosa has not practiced in the last 2 days and is question marked to play in the game, and Austin Eckler is also questionable to play in the game. So you've got 2 of your stars, one on each side of the ball, and you're going to try to play a team that's going to be hungry for a victory. Now, Ryan Tannehill is not. I would, if I picked him over if it was him or Herbert, I'm picking Herbert every day of the week. But saying that, I am picking the Tennessee Titans to beat the Los Angeles Chargers, but Coach 24 is picking the Los Angeles Chargers to beat Tennessee. Now you have the New York Giants and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Arizona is supposed to have been one of the worst teams in the NFL, and they literally came close to beating the Washington Commanders. Now, Washington Commanders are not being mistaken for the Philadelphia Eagles or the Dallas Cowboys for sure. But saying that, I think I was really impressed with how they played because they didn't give up. They got a defensive touchdown too. And the New York Giants is a mess. I am from the show me state. They're going to have to start showing me something. And with that, I am picking the Arizona Cardinals to beat the New York Giants, whereas Coach 24 believes that the Giants will come back and play better, and they will beat the Arizona Cardinals. Now, you've got the San Francisco 49ers versus the Los Angeles Rams. And the Rams really impressed me last week. Saying that, I have the Rams beaten the 49ers. Now, I am not sure if I should have done that or not. San Francisco right now, you could say clearly is the best team in the NFC. They just manhandled the Pittsburgh Steelers, and now they're going back on the road to play the Rams. And I do have the Rams, but Coach 24 has the San Francisco 49ers. Now you have the Jets and Dallas. And if Dallas does half of what they did last week against the Giants, the Jets are in trouble. And you've got Zach Wilson, that is not Aaron Rodgers, going to be running for his life. Dallas, we both picked Dallas. Washington at Denver. This is the Denver's second home game. And last week they didn't play very well, and they lost to the Raiders at home. Washington squeaked by an Arizona Cardinal team. So with that, I am picking Denver at home, just purely on that. If they were playing in Washington, I would have picked Washington. And with that, Coach 24 also picks Denver Broncos. Now, Miami and New England, that's a Sunday night game. And I believe Bill Belichick is going to be able to show their defense. Their defense is underrated, and I think it's pretty good. And I believe they have an opportunity to show what they can do. But Miami is a high-powered offensive team, and it's going to be a really close game. But I do have New England Patriots to beat the Miami Dolphins, whereas Coach 24, he picked the Miami Dolphins. Now we've got New Orleans versus Carolina in a division game. Carolina didn't play very well last week. New Orleans didn't play very well offensively, but they played well defensively. And I think because of that, the defense, I think the New Orleans Saints will beat the Carolina Panthers. And Coach 24 agrees with me with that by picking the Saints. Now that is the Monday night game, and another Monday night game is the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, as well as Cleveland has dominated Cincinnati and Cleveland has struggled against Pittsburgh. And because of that, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Cleveland Browns, whereas Coach 24 believes that Cleveland Browns are a much better team, and they will beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Thursday Night Football, which is going to happen in about 20 minutes as soon as we get off the air. Minnesota last year beat Minnesota 24-7, just totally dominated them. Minnesota, they were high-powered, and they did score they had a lot of yards but no points, and they turned the ball over 3 times. If they turn the ball over 3 times against the Philadelphia Eagles, even without Bradbury, even without Gainesville, even without one of the safeties, and I can't remember who it was, but the Philadelphia Eagles are not going to be fully loaded, but they are going to be better enough to win. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a much better game than the 170 yards that he threw for the Eagles last week against the Patriots. So with that, I am picking the Philadelphia Eagles 24-14, and Coach 24 also picks the Philadelphia Eagles. So we've got all that. So definitely enjoy the weekend. I'm going to go to the Royals game Saturday night. I'm going to enjoy that. So spending time with my family to do that, and hopefully Coach 24 will come back in town. I know that he was supposed to have been gone for about 10 days or something, so I believe he's going to probably miss next week, but he should be back for the week after. And with that, with DJ Scatter, George Walker, and Coach 24, Darwin Penny, and I am Brian Kress, the Awesome Voice. Be awesome, not angry, and you guys have yourself a fantastic football weekend.